Hi, this is Doug Jessop. Welcome to this episode of Family Heritage Stories. With me today, this woman, Jean Deem. And yeah, that's a fun name. We'll talk about that a little bit.
Is that weird?
It's not Jimmy Dean, but it's Jean Deem.
I remember when I was going with my husband and things were getting a little serious. Mm-hmm. And you always try out the name.
Of course.
And I thought, Jean Deem, how weird is this?
Yeah, wow. Did your initials spell out anything? You go, I don't know about that. Are you okay there?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Okay, just Jane, you were not born with the name Deem.
No.
No. Okay, tell me what was your given name when you came onto this earth?
Jean Caroline Messenger.
Messenger, okay. Now, you and I were talking a little bit before, and I have to admit, I love seeing things that have a story. So, because, it makes you wonder, everything's been passed down from generation, and you said, no, I don't have anything. You've got something. This right here, okay? This, no way, but you were telling me that this is yours.
Yes.
Okay, so it's not your grandkids. It's not your daughter's, it's yours.
It's mine.
Tell me the story behind this.
It was made for me, for my name and blessing, by my fraternal grandmother, and she crocheted out of silk sewing machine thread.
Wow, that's amazing.
It's very delicate, yes.
I wonder how long that took her. That
Yeah.
would have been a while. So what was her name?
Gertrude Lewis.
Gertrude Lewis. Hey, Gertrude, you did a great job. Okay. So now here's the deal. You had a baby blessing. It's you. I've been taught to not ask a woman how old she is. However, as you put it, there gets to be an age when it becomes a badge of honor. So you're going to share, inquiring minds out there want to know, how old this lovely lady is right beside me.
Well, February 23rd, I'm going to be 90 years old.
Awesome. 90 years old. Wow. I'm guessing you've seen a couple things in 90 years.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So where did you grow up?
I grew up in southeast Salt Lake,
Okay.
in the East Mill Creek area, under the bulwark of Mount Olympus.
Oh, beautiful. So what was childhood like for you?
A lot of different things.
Okay. Let's dive in.
We had a little family farm. It was 1.25 acres of ground with 75 fruit trees on it, and everything else from gooseberries to grapes to chickens, pigs, turkeys, a cow. A lot of work.
Did you ever learn to milk the cow?
I tried. It wasn't to be.
Wasn't a good thing. Okay, at least it didn't kick you. Okay, but then, of course, that begs the question, what is your favorite fruit?
Apples.
Apples, okay. So apparently you guys grew apples.
Yeah, we grew everything.
Is there a particular tip for picking the right apple?
No, you just wait till they get red and then you pick them.
Okay, that's easy, okay.
Unless they're not red apples.
Oh, well, yeah, okay, that's true. Now, there's lots of different things around here that kind of represent your life. And, you go from being a baby to being 90 like that.
Yeah.
But what are some of the things that, I guess the easiest way to put it is that the show's called Family Heritage. What's family heritage mean to you?
Well, it's a lot of different things. It's your parents, where they immigrated from, their ancestry. It's the way they were raised, that they visit on you. And the DNA you get, everything from your coloring to your likes and dislikes.
So let's talk about some of those things then. Where were your families immigrating from?
My mother was probably the second child born in the United States after her parents immigrated from the Netherlands.
Okay.
My father's people were Pennsylvania Dutch, only they were Germans. They were Pennsylvania Germans.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so not quite Amish, but yeah, kind of close to it. Yeah. So Netherlands. Now, there's usually some fun names associated with the Netherlands names. So, any particular names come to mind from the Netherlands in your line?
Well, Adler, that's not so bad, and the Van Sitters, that's.
Well, yeah, anything Van.
But I've seen some that were real jaw crackers.
Yeah? Any particular ones come to mind?
No, they weren't
just
my
like,
line.
okay.
We had Van Ash, Van Sitter, Adler.
Some fun ones. Okay, then on your father's side, any particular names?
Just Messenger.
Okay.
And
definitely a German name.
Wyand.
Oh, okay. You now, we're fast forwarding. Okay, so here's a little kid in Mill Creek. So where did you end up going to high school?
Granite High.
Okay.
Now, back in that day, it was the only high school in Granite District.
Ah.
So I was 5 miles away from it.
Oh my goodness, that's a ways.
Yeah, but it was the only high school at the time.
So how did you get to high school?
On the bus.
On the bus, okay. The wheels on the bus go round and round, even back then.
And if I missed it, too bad, I walked.
Ooh, did you ever miss?
A couple of times. Didn't make a habit of it.
No, yeah, you learned your lesson. I get it. Yeah. That's true. So you go to high school. Anything in particular happen in high school that kind of, is at the top of your memory?
Well, I was a kid with 2 left feet.
Ah.
I never learned to dance. I did not like to dance. I'm uncoordinated. So I was thrilled to death when I didn't get asked to the prom.
Okay. Well, that's different, but that's fun. Now, talking about dancing and proms and everything, you do have a really, really fancy dress behind you, though.
Yes.
So tell me about that dress.
Well, Daryl proposed to me on Christmas Eve, and I went downtown to the bridal shop the week after Christmas, and it was the first dress I saw, and that was it.
That was it, okay. You're an easy person to shop for. I love it.
Sometimes.
Sometimes. So tell me about this Daryl. How did you meet Daryl?
On a blind date.
Oh.
Mutual friends who'd known him in the Air Force. They both, Daryl and these people, left the Air Force at about the same time, and they were coming back to Salt Lake, and she said, well, give me a call when you get back and we'll get together. So it happened that she and her husband were living in the same ward that I was living in East Mill Creek. So she called me one day and said, would you like to meet this great guy? And I said, no.
Okay. What changed to say, yeah, I guess fine?
Well, all the boxes checked off.
Okay.
The reason I didn't want to go with him, besides the fact that I'd had a whole lot of blind dates that were,
yeah,
not good. The bishop had asked me if I'd go serve a mission.
Oh, wow.
So I was teaching school at the time. I told him yes, and he said, I don't want to interrupt your school year. So we'll wait until summer to issue the call. So Mary called me right after I talked to the bishop, and so no, I'm not interested, don't want to. She just kept talking, and it was apparent to me that I wasn't going to get her off the phone until I said I'd go out with this guy,
okay,
this really great guy. So the date was set up. We were going to the Messiah in the tabernacle.
Wow.
And he showed up wearing this camel hair coat. He had big blue eyes and blonde curly hair. Not movie star, but good enough. And so he just kept calling me. We kept going out. Summer came, and the bishop calls me in, "Are you ready to go?" And I said, "Well, I'm going with this guy." He said, "Okay, we'll wait until the end of the summer." The end of the summer came. Still nothing from Daryl. He was just happy dating. So about the next October, I finally said to him, "Is this going anywhere?"
It's like, deadline, guy, come on.
Because I've given up a mission. I've lost credibility with my bishop. I've had to change jobs. Now, what is this? And he said, "I didn't think you were an opportunist," which infuriated me after what I'd gone through and given up. But he came around right after that and wanted to know if I'd like to go meet his family. So, the rest is history.
Okay, so I got to ask, what was it like meeting his family?
Well, he was the only boy in a family of 5 girls. So, he was the crown prince. And they were looking me over pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, hey, apparently it passed, so, you became his queen, so.
Or something.
Or something, yeah. So how long ago did you get married?
Well, we were married for 63 years before he passed.
That very dress?
Yep.
Very cool. The first dress you picked?
First dress.
Okay. Now, you said you were a teacher. What did teach and where?
I taught kindergarten, 4th and 5th.
Oh, wow.
I taught the Salt Lake District, the Granite District, and when we got married, he bought his first business in Ogden. So we moved to Ogden, and I taught at the North Ogden Elementary School.
I bet there's a whole bunch of people out there right now saying, "I remember her," or at least their mom or dad, or maybe their grandma does. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows?
Wow. So what was the business that your husband bought up in Ogden?
He had a coin-operated laundry,
Okay.
one of those laundromats.
Mm-hmm. I'm familiar with those. Now, you said, it was the first business. How many businesses did you guys own?
Well, he had a lot of different business interests. My husband was all about business. That was his thing. But after we'd had the laundromat 2 years, a couple of guys came along, wanted to buy it from us. And Daryl was doing a lot of business in Salt Lake at the time, so it worked okay.
Okay, glad to hear that. Well, we'll come back to that in a little bit. So I see a picture up here of a young lady in pearls.
That's pretty funny. I was about 32 when that picture was taken, and I have written on the back of it, I had this picture taken just because I liked the way my hair looked.
Your hair looks lovely. It's like, okay, that's great. It's like, hey, you never need an excuse for a picture. It's like, it's okay.
Yeah.
So talking about the other pictures, okay, so here's another picture.
This was 80 years old.
Wow, there you go. And in those 80 years, a couple things have happened, But first, let's get back to Daryl a little bit. So you guys get married in that very dress, got the business, you're living in Ogden now. Any kids come along by chance?
Yes, our first child was born in Ogden.
Okay. How many kids did you end up with?
5.
Okay. Give them a shout out.
Julie, Jeffrey, Karen, David, and Kristen.
Okay. So for a second there, I thought you were going to keep going on the J's. I'm just
No,
wondering.
I tried. Karen was supposed to be Jill.
Ah.
And Daryl said, no way, we're not doing the J thing anymore.
But come on, honey, Deem, come here. Anyway, okay, I digress. So you had 5 children, and do you have any grandchildren by chance?
11.
11. Wow. Okay. Now I could put you on the spot, but I'll be honest, I'm not sure I would remember all the names. Do you have any greats or
9?
Wow.
9 grades.
All because you went on a blind date.
All because we went on a blind date. Yeah.
Very good. Okay. So tell me about these pictures. So that's quite the group there.
Yeah, they're back a few years. This was our 50th wedding anniversary. And these are our children. And at the time, this is who we were with children and grandchildren.
So what kind of traditions do you have in your family that you've passed down to your children and your grandchildren?
Well, when we had one store, one Juliet's, Daryl went down the street one Christmas Eve, before the store had closed for the day, to Lou Dornbush's deli. And he ordered all different kinds of meats and cheeses and pickles and strudel and everything fun for the employees. And he brought it back to the store so they could have this little party on Christmas Eve. And what he had left over, he brought home to us. And that became our Christmas Eve tradition that goes on to this day. We still eat Reuben sandwiches and deviled eggs and hot potato salad. And
there you go. Now, I have to admit, a lot of the time, traditions kind of relate around food. Is there any kind of, besides apples, okay, are there any other kind of food traditions that might have been passed down from your family that kind of keep on going? Any secret recipes out there?
Well, my mother was a great cook. She made pot roast and did interesting things with it, like cutting little slits in the meat to put in garlic buds. She also seasoned it with cumin, which at the time was a spice I'd never tasted before, but I really liked it. So pot roast on Sunday became our thing too. But my husband was very involved in heavy church callings. He was bishop a couple of times, and he did a lot of different. But he pot roast with all the vegetables and everything I could put in the oven, go to church, come home, it was done. And I never knew who he was going to bring home to dinner because he was the bishop of a singles ward too. And if anybody looked like they needed a meal, he'd bring them home. So one time he brought 2 or 3 kids home. The food just didn't stretch. So we sent our kids down the street to the LDS hospital cafeteria to eat, so there'd be enough food for the guests. The kids loved it. They thought that was a great idea.
Yeah, here, give our food. It's okay. Okay, we're going to go to the hospital and go get some food.
Yeah.
Somebody actually asking for hospital food. Wow, that's a first, huh?
Well, they got to pick their own. So.
Oh, well, okay. That makes sense. So as you were going through life, what kind of milestones, are things that kind of stand out to you? And any particular things where you remember anything historical or things of that nature that made an impression on you?
Well, we were all glued to the TV when they landed on the moon, of course.
I remember that, yeah.
Of course, JFK's assassination and all the other assassinations that followed it. What else? Well, I don't know, just the ordinary stuff that comes along with raising a family.
Right.
We took a lot of trips. That was fun.
Oh yeah, I love to travel. Any particular place that has stood out, where you said, this was my favorite place to travel?
You never believe it. The Middle East.
Really? Tell me.
We went to Israel 2 years in a row, and we went to Egypt and Jordan, and loved it. It was a lot more peaceful than it is now.
Yeah. So was there anything in particular that stood out that says, okay, this is the reason why the Middle East, though, is something special in your heart?
I loved the historical aspect of it, going to the Garden of Gethsemane, just the different places, the Sea of Galilee, and the places that you read about in the New Testament, going there and seeing all these different places. The Red Sea, we went to the Red Sea, we saw the Suez Canal. We hiked Mount, what was the mountain?
Sinai?
Sinai.
Wow.
Yeah.
Gene's out there doing the hike. Okay.
Oh, that was a long time ago. My legs worked.
Well, yeah. Well, you get the tires rotated and everything's just fine. With regard to the travel and things like that, there's a theme that I kind of notice that you keep bringing up, and it's your faith. So tell me, why is your faith important to you?
It's the driving force in my life. I don't believe I ever gained a testimony. I think I always had one. It just became more important to me. I was not raised in an active home, but my mother always saw to it that we attended our meetings. I wasn't particularly into it until I got to be a young teenager, and my next door neighbor, who was my age, had to go to sacrament meeting every Sunday. I didn't have to go. I went to Sunday school, and as far as my mother was concerned, good enough. But this next door neighbor said, well, we're going to have a special meeting this Sunday, so why don't you come and go? And back in the day, we had split schedules. You went to Sunday school in the morning, sacrament meeting in the early evening or the late afternoon. Fast Sunday was always held the first Sunday of the month, but it was always in the morning, and there was no meeting in the evening. So they'd use that meeting for various other things. And this particular time, it was a musical program. They had a lot of singers and instrumentalists, and they'd asked everybody to bring flowers. It was in the summertime. And they had these risers on the side of the chapel inside, and where all the flowers were put. And I remember the piano, gorgeous grand piano, cherry wood. It was red, it had carved legs, beautiful thing. And the music was fabulous, and I thought, wow, this is great. I loved the spirit that was there, even though it wasn't a particularly church meeting. But so I started going. When I was 14, our mutual teacher, which is what they called young women back in the day, suggested that we should read the Book of Mormon. There were no Book of Mormons for dummies. There was no come follow me manuals. So just read it. So I started reading it at age 14, and I finished it at age 16. Needless to say, I hadn't been terribly consistent in my reading. And by the time I got through, I really couldn't tell you much of anything I read except 3rd Nephi. And I still remember sitting on a stool in the basement tending the washing. Didn't have automatic washers. You put the washing in and you had to take it out or it had washed till next Tuesday. So I was sitting there on a stool tending the washing, reading 3rd Nephi and thinking, if this isn't true, it should be. I just knew it was true. And I've always had a relationship with the Savior. I've always felt close to him. So, yeah, that's
It's a beautiful story. What are some of the values and teachings that you want your grandkids and your great-grandkids to know?
pretty much what I just told you. I want them to know about my feelings for the truthfulness of the gospel. And that if they will follow this, they're not going to escape the trouble and problems of life, but their lives will follow a pattern that will get them eventually where they want to go.
It's that endure to the end thing.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Everything else is easy. It's that endure to the end thing that's hard. But you're doing a great job.
Oh, I
90?
know.
Wow.
It's it's not without lots of questions, lots of, and I've discovered there are no answers. You don't get answers, you just get increased faith.
Oh, okay.
At least that's what it's been for me.
Hey, what works for you is great.
So I have this little shell necklace on. We served 2 temple missions, one in Madrid, Spain, and one in Veracruz, Mexico. We followed the Pilgrim Trail in Spain. We didn't walk it, we drove. But back in the Middle Ages, there were 3 cities where a person could go and get his sins forgiven. There was Jerusalem, Rome, and Santiago de Compostela in northern Spain. And the sign of the pilgrim was a seashell. So apparently, everybody was expected to make that trip once in their life. So they were given a shell by their priest or whoever their religious person was, and they walked that trail. And when they got to the end, they presented their shell and to prove that they had done this and got their sins forgiven. And if you go back there today, the sidewalks are stamped with the sign of the shell. You see them on the light posts. Santiago is the Spanish version of St. James. And so this is apparently, tradition holds it that he was the James from Peter, James, and John who made the trip into Spain. And he was beheaded, but his body was buried there. So it's a very sacred place to the Spanish people. So I got this little shell when we went there.
So that begs the question, okay, so you've been to Spain, you've been to Jerusalem, have you been to Rome?
No, I've been to Venice.
Okay, well, I guess it'll be close enough, huh?
I've been to northern Italy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I just had to tease you about that. It's like, okay, you've done 2 of the 3. I mean, maybe it's time for a road trip. So traveling sounds like something that was kind of fun. You've had the kids. Now,
We had 5 stores,
5 stores
5 retail stores.
and 5 kids.
Yep.
Okay, so let's talk about The retail stores. Okay, so your husband started with the coin-operated laundromat. Okay, and then you've been doing the school teaching and everything. Tell me about Juliet's.
It didn't start out being Juliet's. He was looking for a business to buy. He was downtown Salt Lake on 3rd South, or Broadway, as it was called, and passed this old cross corset shop. Remembered that his Aunt Ruby was working in there and thought he'd just go in and say hello. So he went in and was talking to her. She told him the place was for sale.
Ah.
They had a long-distance owner. It was actually the Olga Brazier Company from Los Angeles, and they wanted to sell it. So he investigated, and it was pretty funny, actually, how it happened.
Oh, yeah?
We had ordered a new car, a Peugeot, a French Peugeot.
Mm-hmm.
And back in the day, you had to order everything to go with it, from the radio to the seat belts. So in the meantime, I'd gone to the hospital and had our second child. And he was supposed to come and pick us up in the Peugeot. He came and picked us up in the old car. And I said, "What happened to the new car?" And he said, "Well, I turned it back and used the money to buy a business." So up at that point, I didn't know anything about it. I think he ran it past me once and said, "How would you like to own a lingerie store?" And he was coming up with stuff all the time, so it just kind of
Were you awake at the time when he was saying this? I don't know.
went over my head. I didn't pay much attention to it. So that's how it went, and he immediately wanted to update the merchandise in it and change the name so that it didn't look so old.
Mm-hmm.
And our first daughter's name was Julie, so we Frenched it up and called it Juliet's.
So that's the Peugeot business that kind of, I get it. Okay, that works. So how many locations did you end up with Juliet's?
We had one in Ogden, the one in downtown Salt Lake, one in Cottonwood, one in Fashion Place, and one in Orem.
Wow. About what year would that have been when you started the business?
62.
Okay, and then when did you end up selling and getting out of that business?
93.
Wow.
We had it for 31 years.
Wow, that's awesome. I can't imagine lingerie changing all that much in 30 years, but hey, you never know. What else happened in those 30 years? So you have your oldest daughter. She now has a lingerie store named after her, Peugeot note. But you end up having 4 more kids. What was kind of I guess what I'm trying to figure out is, business owners is a whole different thing. I mean, there's the people that have not owned a business think it's easy and they don't understand kind of the hours and such. But
And they don't understand the expense.
Mm-hmm.
They, I had a lot of relatives who'd come in and say, "Well, I'm Jean's aunt," or "I'm Jean's cousin," expect a big discount. And even the employees, sort of think that you take the money out of the till and take it home every night. They don't understand that the stock has to be paid in advance because you're always ordering a season ahead. You've got rent, you've got property taxes, there's all kinds of things, plus the employees' wages. So you have to do pretty well to come home with a profit.
yeah, well, with 5 stores, you guys did okay.
We did.
What was your favorite thing about being a business owner?
Free underwear.
Well, geez, there you go. Wow. Okay. Here you go.
My daughter's had the biggest stash of panties in the Intermountain West.
There you go. There you go.
Well, I got to go with him to the markets.
Oh, yeah.
And every one of our salespeople would generally have 2 or 3 different lines. They wouldn't carry just nightgowns or pajamas. They'd have dresses, they'd have jewelry, and I got to put my name on their the stuff that they'd brought to show, so that at the end of the season they'd just send them to me at wholesale price. So it was really fun. I have a very big wardrobe.
What was it like the first time you became a grandmother?
I walked to the bathroom and stood in front of the mirror and said, "I'm a grandma." I was 49, so I wasn't feeling like the typical grandma, I guess, but, you know.
Okay, what was the first reaction to being a great grandma?
Oh, that was just,
Hey, life's happening, it's okay.
yeah,
Okay.
you bet.
So if I had, and now granted we're cheating on this because there's technically a person behind the camera, just so you know. If you had one of your kids here, okay, what do you think they would say about mom that they remember from their childhood? Was there, what kind of things that you did or such?
She'd probably remember the time that she wanted a bird. And I told her I'd get her a bird if she'd play the harp. She had approached us about playing a harp, and I got all excited about it, and then she changed her mind and decided she didn't want to play it anymore. But I had this harp all picked out to buy, and promised her a bird if she'd play the harp, so she did, and she didn't get the bird. And frankly, I forgot about that into the bargain. And I've always been sorry that she didn't get her bird.
Well, maybe she just might get a bird after this interview.
I don't think she wants a bird anymore.
Okay, well, maybe some feathers. Okay, let's go another generation. So, if one of your grandkids were here, okay, what would they say about Grandma Deem?
Well, I've got a couple of them that are very kind and keep track of me, although the boy's in law school at George Washington in D.C. He calls me 11 o'clock at night to tell me he passed his tests, got on the dean's list for the first semester, so. And then I have one in Washington State. She calls me regularly, and we FaceTime? Mm-hmm. FaceTime with her little kids, and she's a nurse, and she calls me quite frequently, but they're all really lovely young people.
Of course, they got a nice grandma. Come on. So, I've also noticed something that's kind of repeating in your theme. It's music. Music seems to have an interesting theme. You got a harp, you had a church choir, and then you had a date with Sing the Messiah. So I got to ask, what kind of music did you listen to when you were growing up?
Classical.
Classical, okay.
I didn't have much patience with teenage music when I was a teenager. It was just past the big band era. Elvis was waiting in the wings. I never was into Elvis. So, but I liked classical music. Went to the symphonies quite often.
Any particular composer that you favor?
Brahms.
Brahms, okay.
I'm a person who is very shy.
Really?
Extremely shy, but I love public speaking. Yeah. I did not have a good growing up. I'm a product of a dysfunctional marriage, which impacted my personality in negative ways. But so I'm ill at ease around trying to be a person who engages people in conversation. I'm kind of withdrawn unless we're doing a one-on-one and we're talking to each other. So I guess I'd just like my children to know that I've had to overcome some things. I'm very privileged. I've never had to worry about paying bills. But there have been problems along the way, emotional problems that I've had to overcome. I'm a patriot. I love this country. And I've got a flag hanging out in front of my house. It's a political statement. It's there 365 days of the year. Let's see. Birthdays have always been special to me, and I've tried to make them special for my children. My husband, not so much. He more than once came home and said, well, I've been too busy to think about doing something for your birthday, so let's celebrate next weekend. Didn't happen. But so I've had a lot of blessings, tremendous blessings. I think to be a member of this church and a citizenship in this country is as good as it gets.
You had mentioned previously that your relationship with your mother was not the best.
Strained.
How did that impact the way that you wanted to have the relationship with your children?
I was scared to death that they would grow up and not like me. And so I was more of a free-range mother than a helicopter mother. I was kind of afraid of being there, inflicting my wishes on them too much.
How'd that work out?
Well, they're great kids, but I think they grew up in spite of me, not because of me.
I'm not so sure that they would say that. So it sounds like you've done a great job. What's your favorite thing about being a mother?
Having family around you, and particularly at this time in my life, because I've pretty much lost my mobility. I've been fortunate enough to keep my mind. I don't think I have dementia yet, although sometimes I wonder. And they're right there. What can I do for you? What do you need? Let me help you with this. No, don't pick that up. Let me do it. It's wonderful to have that love and that concern, and just know that it's there.
For the record, her daughter is behind the camera and says that she was a great mom. She loved the birthday. She did all that good stuff. So she's just being a little self-deprecating.
My second daughter lamented the fact that she felt like she lost an election at East High School because I didn't show up with posters. I think I'd have probably gotten more involved in stuff like that. I kind of shied away from the PTA thing. And
Well, for you saying that you are a shy person, I get it, but you have been wonderful to chat with, and I appreciate your time. So thank you. I got a great story. And whoever the heck did it, I mean, that person's a talented person. It's like, okay. So you've been doing lingerie since you were a kid.
She was fabulous.
Tell me about her.
She died when I was 5, so I don't have much of a memory of her. except that she had a teenage daughter when I was just a little kid, and my mother took us to visit one day. It was over on the west side of town, where they had a lot of little mom and pop stores on the corners. And my sister and I started whining for candy. You know how little kids do, you got some candy. And my mother was shushing us, you know, we didn't come down here for that. And my feisty grandmother said, "You shut up. They're my grandchildren. If they want candy, they can have candy." And she said to my teenage aunt, "Take them down the street to the store and get them some candy." So that's one of my memories of her.
Wow, feisty grandma.
She was feisty.
What was her name again?
Gertrude Lewis.
Gertrude Lewis, awesome. I am going to circle around because there's one thing that's interesting. Now, obviously, I'm a guy, and so we look at things differently, but a lot of the time, especially with girls, you tend to have, for lack of a better term, besties, little best friends growing up or this, that, and the other. Who was your best friend when you were growing up?
I guess that girl next door that thought she had to be going to church, so should I. But it was during the war years. I still remember the day Pearl Harbor was bombed. And so Lynn and her family, her dad got a job working in the defense industry, and they moved to Hillfield area. So she wasn't there, and I don't think I had a best friend. Just, you know, the family and whoever.
Yeah. How old were you when Pearl Harbor happened?
7.
7. Wow. Okay.
I remember D-Day when they landed in Normandy. Yeah, I remember the day it ended. And I remember thinking to myself, 60 million people dead, and all the horrors of that war. We'll never have another war. Nobody will ever want to be in another war. 5 years later, we were in the Korean conflict. So.
Your husband had some military experience in the Air Force?
Yes, he
Did
was
any
a
of-
pilot,
Oh, he was a pilot? Really?
and my son was a pilot.
And that was the question I had. So any of your other so your children have some military experience as well?
Yes, Jeffrey retired from the military.
So what was he doing in the military?
He was a pilot,
Okay. So your husband was a pilot and your son?
yes.
Wow. Okay.
I have a flag at home in one of those triangular cases that he flew over Afghanistan on the 4th of July. Forgotten the year, but
Country means a lot to you.
yeah.
What is your secret for living so long and looking great and seeming to be a pretty happy person?
Well, actually, I just love life. And I guess I've had a great life. I've never had to suffer privations. I've never known the horrors of war. I've never had to worry about how to pay a bill. I've just had a lot of life's good stuff. And so I really don't want to give it up.
You have a lovely ring, and it's got a lot of diamonds on there, which you have, you earned and deserved.
When he gave me the original ring, he bought it at the base exchange in Japan when he was over there. And he gave it to me, and it was very plain, just a little solitaire. And he said, "Now, I didn't pick that ring out for you. I picked it out for the diamond. So let's go get it put into a setting that you would like." And I said, "Well, it's okay." So I kept it for 11 years. And one night we were standing outside of a movie theater waiting for the show to change, and next door was a little jewelry shop. And I looked in the window and I saw this set, and I thought, wow, I love that. And I said to him, would you mind? Because he had said, let's go do a different one. So I got that one, and I wore that one for many years. And that one, second one, was my favorite. But I noticed one day a prong was broken. So I thought, well, maybe I should get a different one. So I did. I didn't like the third one very much. And the fourth one was, okay. But then I got this one.
And you're okay with this one?
For now.
For now, okay. Who knows? Maybe in another 11 years, you'll get another one for your 101st birthday, right?
Kristen's in line to get a ring that he brought me from Thailand.
Oh, everyone has a story. Objects with stories are treasures remembered. That is a treasures remembered. Is there something besides this? Who knows? Maybe it's a ring, or maybe it's a piece of jewelry. Is there something that is going to be passed down to the next generation from you that they need to know the story?
Well, he brought me a ring from Thailand, and it's an incredible thing, all full of rubies and opals, and it's supposed to look like the crown jewels of the Queen of, it was Siam then, not Thailand. And Kristen's got these long, beautiful fingers, and it takes somebody like her to wear that thing. But he brought it home. He put it in his sock drawer, and one day I was trying to get my fourth child up from a nap, and he wasn't coming around. And I thought, if I could give him something to eat, and Daryl sometimes had gum or cookies or something in his sock drawer. So I'm digging through there, and I see this ring box. I'm a red-blooded American woman. I opened the ring box and nearly died when I saw what was in there. I shoved it back in there. He never knew that I saw that, but she's in line to get it.
How do you want to be remembered?
I think as a peacemaker. I want to instill in my children the fact that you don't have to be just like the next person. You can be very different and still appreciate their personality. You can still get along with them. You can still love them. You can still be close to them. Yes, there will be times they'll annoy you. You won't like what this person's done or that one, but we're family. And I would like them to promote the love that exists there. We all get along great. We have a good relationship, although I know there are times when they don't get along, but that's okay.
With another episode of Family Heritage Stories, with this incredible woman, Jean Deem, I'm Doug Jessop.